This is Infection, the survival podcast, recorded live on Wednesday, April 10th, 2019, episode 221. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. We bring you the latest news, reviews, updates, and more each and every week. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. Of course, check out our website. It is infectionpodcast.com. We're here on a Wednesday because I was traveling for work, and just because I was tardy does not mean that there was no show. So Brian has been more than generous to do the Wednesday show here, and he joins me as he does each and every week here at this same time, different place, I guess you could say.
Different day. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you want to find me at Boise Computer on Twitter, of course, my blog, biteoftech.com. And then on our website, if you head over there, there's a green button on the upper right that says join our Discord server. And throughout the week, we communicate on that platform. And so if you're looking for a place that you can give suggestions of news topics, you want to be able to just chat, hang out, meet some of the other people that we talk about during the show, just join our Discord server. It's a free app. They have a mobile version that's very lightweight, a desktop version, and even if you don't want to install an app on your phone or on your computer, they actually have a web-based version that works as well. So it doesn't install anything on your computer. Now we have our Steam group, so perhaps you didn't hear the notification of us not having a show yesterday, and we're going to do it today. If you happen to be at your computer right now, you get a little pop-up notification, and it'll tell you that we have a show going on. So that's a great way to do it. And also, I don't know if you want to mention, there is that poll that you did.
Yes. So it's
and that's on the website. So if you want to participate, we have a link.
I forgot about that, and it appears you've updated our button. You weren't quite satisfied with our other.
I wasn't happy with that one. Sorry.
I forgot to even mention that. So yeah, if you click on here and you click give feedback right here on the website, I'm going to switch that away because I think it's going to open up my logged in Google form. Yeah, here it is. It's our Infection Podcast listener feedback page. We did this last week. We had a number of people take the poll, and we'll promote it for another week or so. What we're looking for is the top 4. There's a list of maybe 20 games. The top 4 games you'd like to hear about every week on the show, because we have so much news to get into. The top 4 games, as well as how you listen to the podcast via either be Twitch, YouTube, or RSS via an app on your phone, and then any other feedback, which we've gotten as well. So you can check that out. It's on our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. Click on that button. I believe the URL is infectionpodcast.com/feedback. So you can go there, /feedback, and it's pinned on Twitter, so you can see it there as well.
Yeah. And yeah, of course, on our website, we also have show notes for every single episode. So if you're listening today and we talk about something that you want to go and see one of our original sources for it, just click on the episode that you're thinking about. We've got videos and change logs and all kinds of stuff in there. So for every show, we have full show notes for every episode we've done. So go check it out. As far as we did Game of the Week last week.
And it was awesome.
And we had a really good time. We did Realm Royale. And I enjoyed it when we first played it. I remember saying, hey, this game is pretty polished.
I think that was mine, but it's okay.
Well, you know what I'm saying? Like
yes.
It was fun, but
it was very fun, yeah.
There was a lot of other games coming out at that time. And that's the thing, is we had a number of other BRs releasing at the same time. And so we came back and played it again. And personally, I enjoyed it so much more than I enjoy games like Fortnite or even Call of Duty's BR. This I enjoy because it's casual enough for me.
Well, and we talked about this. We either talked about this late Friday night or Saturday at some point. I don't remember when we talked about it, but none of us had played Realm Royale in months, and we were able to go in and play, and I think play a pretty competitive game. We had one. I think you and I had a duo where we had like 9 combined kills. We're talking. I mean, you're talking about 10% of the player base, and now for some of these other people, 9 kills in that game is meaningless. But for 2 bozos like you and I, Brian, who haven't touched the game. I mean, I wasn't even on my Steam list. I had to go to the store and click play for free to get it back on my computer. That says something about the game that I think, as you mentioned, Call of Duty's got the problem, the skill gap between and we're not even casuals at Call of Duty. We don't play it. So like when you jump in and actually try, you're below a casual, but between casuals and pros is so extreme. It's the same thing in Fortnite. It was the same thing in H1Z1. It's the same thing in PUBG. Apex is a little bit like that, but I think they've got a pretty good bounce, but I don't know how exactly they've managed in Realm Royale to make it so that and you can tell when you get killed by a good player. I mean, it's blatantly obvious, but you still have a chance to kill them. I think it's part of that revive system and the whole, what is it, 12
That's
seconds.
The thing is there's some players that killed me, but the thing is I was able to get away and convert from the chicken back into the player and then come back and try to kill him again. And so I think also it seems like the controls are simple enough in that game. If you go play a game like Fortnite, you're just, for me, trying to do the building, it's like I have to get a different mouse to even play that game. It's so complicated with the number of buttons and things you have to push to truly build.
Yeah.
And so I think with this one, they've simplified it down as much as possible to where you're not thinking, okay, what do I have to press now? What am I supposed to be pressing here? It feels natural, and you could pick any of those abilities. I mean, it works out. It worked out for us really well to where I felt comfortable the whole time and wasn't like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now.
And I played on Saturday, and I think you did. I don't know if you did or didn't. I think
I did.
We
did.
That's when we got our 8 or 9 kill game was Saturday morning. So that's always our I don't know, our gauge of how successful was the game of the week. Are people interested in playing it again the next day? And we were.
And then I played it with Musty, I think, within the last couple of days again
very
as
cool.
well. Yeah.
So there you go. Realm Royale, free to play Battle Royale game, got a cool art style. And the real reason we played it is because of their new, I don't remember what they call it. It's not called skills. It's called something else. They've got like a new class system that allows you to really specialize. There's, I think, 5 main different classes.
Four main now.
4 main.
There used to be 5, but they took one out.
Gotcha. So there's 4 main, but this new system allows
I think they took out the engineer. There used to be the one called an engineer, and I don't remember there being an engineer this time.
Okay.
There's the assassin.
Yep. Warrior.
The hunter, the warrior, and the mage.
Okay, so 4. And then this new system allows you to highly customize each of those individual characters to fit maybe your playstyle or whatever you may be doing with it. So that's kind of cool, and it allows you to do that and just play the game and do some of your customization with that. So all right, that was last week. Coming up this week, Brian, for our game of the week.
Oh boy.
We've been talking about it. We've been beating around the bush about it. We're gonna do this. It's happening. Rust. This Friday night, we are going to start at. Brian and I will work to find a server for us to play on. We're gonna take our friend Dirty's email, which we read a couple episodes ago, to heart, and he recommended a low pop community server, and that's what we're gonna try to find. And come Friday night, we'll let everybody know where we are and what we're going to be doing, and we are going to begin our journey in Rust. And
we'll take it as serious as we can.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as we need to work to get past that initial hump of we're getting killed constantly, and try to get to where we treat it like we do all these other games like Ark, 7 Days to Die, where we're building and we're truly taking advantage of everything in the game. Because that's the thing, is we've never gotten into the game enough to really see the rest of the game. So
I want to thank Locklore for the resubscription here on Twitch. He asks us, Brian, what is the over-under on the minutes until Rust rage quit? I mean, it's got...
For Nick or for me?
Okay, first of all, this is my idea. So first of all, I don't appreciate that. Second of all, you have no prior evidence to back up those salacious comments you're making about me. I don't think there'll be a rage quit on it. I think we're going to be playing on pretty much I'm not going to call it a private server, but it'll be a low enough population server that I don't think it's going to be anything too crazy. So this is one of these games where we really, I think we will, the strength in numbers will be our key to success in this game come Friday night. So if you have Rust, we'd love to have you be part of our experience Friday night. It's 8 p.m. Eastern in our Discord. The links, all the other information, how you can join it, is on our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. Install the game, because it's, from what I remember, it's a pretty large install. Have that installed, launch it, make sure everything works with the, I don't know if they use Punkbuster or Easy Anti-Cheat, but make sure that that's all initialized and working, and then we'll find our server and we'll let everybody know Friday night where we're going to be and how to join us. So that is all.
All right. So do we want to jump into pretty much the big news this week? I don't know.
Yes.
I don't think anybody was really expecting this.
No. So, I mean,
let's start out. The first thing that I saw was a tweet from Smedley.
Yes, so did I.
That was the initial thing that I saw that even showed that anything was happening. So Smedley sends out a tweet, and all it says is, "Sorry, friends at Daybreak and NantG." I was like, okay, that's not good.
Who's their community manager? He's a streamer. What is his name? It's not. Well, I'll find.
So it's like Supersonic.
Yeah,
or something.
So this also Smedley's tweet was based off of Supersonic's live stream, who was streaming, I believe, Rocket League at the time, just a regular stream. He was and is a streamer, and then he became the community manager for Z1 Battle Royale. And this Smedley tweet, which was on April 4th. What was that? Wednesday? No, that last Thursday. This happened all late Thursday on the East Coast, like 5 o'clock. These tweets started rolling out. And right off the bat, I think it was pretty obvious what that meant. And it is the fact that there has been essentially NantG, the new cooperative company that was headed by Jace Hall, is ceasing operations and has given all of the rights.
Well, ceasing operations with Z1 Battle Royale.
Correct. They're ceasing the operations of Z1 and all of the Z1 Battle Royale assets, and they've returned all of that stuff back to Daybreak. Now, by the way, this was a 50%. This NantG thing was 50% of one company and 50% of Daybreak. That was the makeup. They weren't interested in keeping it up anymore, and they have now returned those rights back to Daybreak. And because of that, the team working on Z1, which included people like Adam Clegg, Castro, and the guy's name, who again his name keeps escaping me, Supersonic, the community manager, were all let go because they no longer have anything to manage over at NantG. The Z1 project over there is no more.
Yep. And they said that they're going to, as far as NantG, said that they're going to focus on doing mobile.
Which is what they were to start.
Yeah, that's what they were doing before. And I think part of this, they were taking on the Z1 Battle Royale because they were wanting to start converting these Daybreak games into mobile games. But they were willing to take on Z1 BR as part of that, which is a PC game. So do you have any speculation of what changed? I mean, as far as was it the player numbers? Was it possibly they looked at the mess that is whatever they received to start managing?
I think, and this is said in one of these statements, which we'll get to. I want to read a lot of it. That they put all of their eggs, and when I say they, I mean the new Z1 Battle Royale that we played. They put all of their eggs into, unfortunately, we talked about this last week, they put all of their eggs into the Twitter and Reddit complaint bin and built and remastered and spent months and months and tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in salaries rebuilding a game that was 3 years old. They acknowledge that in one of these posts. Somebody does. I think Adam Clegg acknowledges that in one of these posts. They put all this time, all this money into making the game feel like what people said they wanted. And it turns out, based on the people playing it, 3 weeks now since the launch, or I think it's been about 3 weeks, maybe it's been four weeks, we're right back at square one with not enough players to
Start lobbies.
Just start lobbies and just have a sustainable game.
They can't afford, the company NantG is going to sit there and dump all this money out with no real promise of return. I mean, we've talked about this a number of times before this announcement was ever made. We've talked about how they just, people say on the internet, I want this and I want this. But you want to know the secret? I mean, for investors out there, you want to know the secret? They don't. They say all these things of I want this or I don't want this. And it's all just them wanting something to complain about. I mean, Reddit, the fact that they cultivated their whole online presence and communications with everybody on Reddit was just one of their biggest downfalls. I think that I've seen a number of people post this, but they said the H1Z1 fan base, or player base more, was one of the most toxic that we've seen.
Oh my God. Like,
and
crazy toxic.
And that's the issue, is you get people that'll say, I want this, I want this, I want this. They're not actually telling you what they want. They're just trying to be contrarian. I mean, all they want to do is say, you're doing it wrong. Here, I know how it's supposed to be. And they're not going to play whatever you make. They could have made anything and they're not going to play it.
Let me counterpoint. Let me counterpoint you here. So I think these are my thoughts on it, because I experience this sometimes myself when chatting with friends. And we've talked about this 100 times. This is literally me beating the dead horse, but I don't care. That's my show. You remember experiences better than they actually were if you were having a good time and had a good time. And that is, I think, what H1Z1 is to a lot of people. If for our community, Brian, it's the only reason that you and I are here. It's the only reason that we've got people watching here live on Twitch right now, is because of H1Z1. So all of our times in that game, I think you as a person mentally block out some of the BS, and we do. I mean,
all the bugs and all the issues.
Yeah, the fact that the gate codes right off the bat were 4 letters, or 4 numbers, there was no security, so that you could just brute force a base. I mean, it was in clear text on the screen, so you couldn't stream it. I mean, all of these just little minute things that you block out, and you say the game was great. So Brian, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, and I think that some people are what you say they are. They are the contrarians. They just are the bitch. You know, it doesn't matter. We're never going to be satisfied, never going to be happy. But I do think there's a group of people, a strong group of people, that really did think, here's the key, they really thought they wanted PS3. I have read enough Reddit comments and seen enough threads on Twitter of people really talking about how much they enjoyed PS3, and I refuse to believe that every single one of those people was just being some type of troll. I do think there are people that genuinely thought PS3 was great. The problem is, we know this, everybody watching the show knows this, it wasn't really that great. The memories were great. Playing with your friends was great. The companionship was great. The craziness that went on in the game was great. But the game itself was actually really subpar. We played it 3 weeks ago. It sucked.
Yeah.
It was the same garbage that we dealt with 3 years ago. It sucked.
So
but that's what they rebuilt. They rebuilt a great game.
I want to read a comment by Castoro, and he was
GM, right?
I mean, he was one of the, he was one of the main guys in it.
Yeah.
If they had a group of 4 people sitting up there talking about Z1 Battle Royale on a stream, he was one of the 4.
Yeah,
so,
I believe
he was one of the main.
I believe he was actually driving the boat. Jace was the figurehead of it, but I believe but what you need. But
this guy was one of the actual guys in the office doing stuff.
He was like the general man. I'm going to call him the general manager of H1Z1.
So he makes a comment and he says, to the JS community, so Just Survive community, if you want to bring the game back, at this point you have 2 options. 1, convince Daybreak Games and this guy, Dr. Pat Soon Xiong, to bring it back, or 2, find alternative game that gives you the same feels. I mean, that comes down to it. Honestly, if they brought back Just Survive, people would still not be happy.
We talked about this, I know.
They would not be happy. But you need to find a game, and for us, this is this weekend is a perfect test of that. We're going to be testing Rust because people are telling us that that gives them the exact same feeling, or, you know, in some way, probably exactly the same feeling that we had originally with H1Z1. That camaraderie and the working together and just everything that we did in H1Z1 that gave us that good feeling. There's people getting that exact same feeling in Rust. And Rust is much more upkept. It's much more polished. It has a lot of the same mechanics as H1Z1, but probably a lot less of the trash. Because, I mean, we dealt with so many problems that we just overlooked, that I think if they brought back Just Survive exactly as it was during when we were playing it in our heyday, right? People would look and say, what is, you know, this is broken. I can't play this.
It is broken.
They would say that now.
Well, because it is. It's not a, they'll say now.
But there's so much competition. There's so many examples of other ways to do it. That was a very unique time. I've said this over and over again. That was a unique time. We had a lull in development. We had a lull in games releasing, and that was different. It seemed so new. But you know what? There's a lot of other games that are doing the exact same thing, and they're doing it in a better way. And people aren't running to those games. I mean, we played what did we play? Rend?
Yeah, Rend.
I mean, if you look at the number of bugs and the polish level of Rend compared to H1Z1, no comparison. But you know what? People aren't playing Rend even. It doesn't matter.
All right. I want to do this. It's a little long. It's a little long-winded, but I think it's important. Do you care if I read through Adam Clegg's whole twit longer here?
No, I think it's all relevant, and I think it's good.
So we've obviously had our public disputes with Adam. Adam is the only one that's really left from the OG days of H1Z1. I mean, everybody else is gone. But Adam put out a very lengthy Twitter long statement, and I'm going to just go ahead and read this because I think it's important. Bear with me as I stumble through this. I'm a little jet lagged for people that aren't joining us live. It starts off with, "Dear H1 community, let's be real. The game, no matter what, will always be known as H1," which is first line right off a shot right at, you know, the whole. What was it called? It was called H1Z1. Then it was called King of the Kill. Then it was called H1Z1 Battle Royale. Then it's called Z1. I mean, it's just nonsense. So right off the bat with that, this is something we said many times throughout all the name changes, and is what I will refer to it from here on out. I'd first like to take this time to apologize to the survival community. I personally feel like I took a hard left turn somewhere in 2015 when I saw the Battle Royale mode start to pick up, and I left for greener pastures. I had a lot of fun creating and helping make the survival world. We had a lot of fun playing the true H1Z1, and I wish I'd put more time into it. But being in the moment and seeing what was going on in the BR mode and how and now a huge genre, it was too hard to not want to be part of it. I hope you accept my apology as a dev. Now, in terms of what happened to the game after 2015, I had no control over or was ever in charge of it. Once I left for BR, that was the end of my tenure in the survival portion, which I actually didn't know, but that's good to see there. To the BR community, I want to thank you all for helping me grow in the good times and in the bad. While it was a roller coaster of emotions, I'm grateful to having experienced it all. To Player Unknown, thank you for creating your mod on Arma 3. Without it, I don't think people would be playing what they're playing today. There would likely be no pro scene for players. Streaming would look a lot different, so would people's careers. Your mod helped start a revolution. I couldn't be happier than I was, at beginning, because they actually were there at the start. If you remember back, you got to remember this, Brian. The H1Z1 licensed his mod essentially before PUBG. They licensed the idea, which I'm sure most people forgotten because it's so long ago, and there's been so much BR in the space that as much crap as you want to give H1Z1, they really were on the front line of the BR thing. They didn't do it the greatest, but they really were. And obviously,
you can credit them, and this is kind of shooting themselves in the foot. You can credit them with probably giving him the funding or the clout to then be approached by another company, to Bluehole, to start developing PUBG, which then led into people really like that, which then led into Fortnite being converted into a BR, which then gives you all these other BRs. I mean, you name the one that you think compares to Fortnite, is or competitive to Fortnite. all of those started down that chain of events.
Yes. So
this one to that.
Yeah, so there really is something to be said about that. To Jace, thank you for being the biggest fan of the game more than anyone could ever know. Without your love and support for the game, it would have been shut down a long time ago. You could have created and got funded for a league for any game, but you chose ours because you were a fan and loved it, and and only wanted the best for it. I'm sorry it didn't work out for you, and you had to take a ton of heat, but I know you only meant the best for the game in your heart. To Miranda, who I believe was previously head of esports over there.
Yeah, she was in charge of esports.
Yeah, she works. I think she actually works over at Amazon now, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, she moved.
Thank you for teaching me what it takes to get to live in the esports world, or should I say esports? Never mind. I learned so much from working with you, and it helped me grow. To Castro, who we were talking about earlier, you're the man, dude. You believed in me most when never gave me the time of the day. I hope we can work together and whatnot. To Weisenhunt and Smedley, the original H1Z1 guys and the original H1Z1 dev team, we did something very special together, and I love so very much working on it with all of you. To his spectate and observation crew, we had the most Herculean task of showing the world how to view a BR tournament, and I think we did a hell of a job considering we had no experience starting out. Our casts of the Invitational and the Elite Series and Pro Leagues were top-notch. I don't think you guys really understand how hard it is to capture the action the way we were able to do it. I'm so proud of you guys. To Lyric, who's a Twitch streamer, I don't care what anyone says. If you never played the game, you never... excuse me. I don't care what anyone says. If you never played the games, you played and reached out of the box on the Twitch platform, there would have never been a Battle Royale movement. You were the introduction to myself, our team, and the Player Unknown game to all the other streamers. And there are a lot of them. I will be forever grateful for the relationships we have built and the fun times we've had over the years. Thank you all for playing our fun little mode and giving it the platform for exposure. I think the invitationals at TwitchCon were the most fun I've ever had during the whole journey and meeting all of you, as well as the players. Thank you to Twitch, Daybreak, and NantG, Twins Galaxies, and everyone else I'm sure I'm missing. I'll never forget the experience. All right, this is where it kind of opens up here. I have been extremely blessed over the past 4 years working on a game like this. Most people work their whole career and never see even a sliver of success that we saw. I got to travel the world, meet so many awesome people, whoever were diehard fans of the game, and always energized me to keep going when I got back home. I love you guys, and I love you guys so much, and I'm so eternally grateful for all the experiences I got to live. Were there hard times? Yes. Did I have to deal with with a lot of hate? Yes. Did I say some dumb things along the way? Of course. Haven't we all? But that is the part of the learning experience, and I'm better for having experienced it. Say what you want about executive decisions, budget spending, and all the other things that people never see as part of the business in this industry. The game will always have a place in the gaming world and gaming history in the hearts and minds of everyone who got to play it. Splitting the game. This is a little section on that. I understood why the decision was made. 2 different communities and 2 different games sharing the same database and a performance check, or pre-force check-ins. It was a huge hassle, and both communities had to suffer through which game got the updates, and BR was winning by a mile. I don't like how the survival team was handled afterwards, and I feel that they deserved a better opportunity to thrive, and I still think there is a space for a massive sandbox zombie experience, but that's not up for me to decide. On the combat update, was very against it, obviously, but remember this was just after we got banned in China and PUBG just came out of alpha. I think pressure was on the executives to make a move, and it was just the wrong one. In hindsight, the right move was to fix the bugs, fix the latency, fix the engine, and lean into supporting the game that people fell in love with. Unfortunately, those things were starting to happen a little too late. On the full revert, we brought this up many times, but work involved on the infrastructure side was very expensive, and none of the devs really thought we were giving the players a good experience. We all thought during the PS3 getting yelled at by the community to fix the lag, fix the headshots, body shots, fix the hit registration, fix the shotgun. PS3 was when we had the most players, but it was also when we had no competition, and putting in the money to try to make a revert worked would essentially break the game and make it feel very buggy and very old, especially after everyone has played newer and more shiny BR games since then. I know some of you will disagree, that thinks that the revert and everything will be okay, everybody will come back. But I don't think that but I do think you are chasing ghosts a little bit. It's amazing because it was an amazing time. All the streamers were playing it, no competition, all the players, the big Chinese numbers, boosting and concurrent. The only way you capture that match again is to make a new game that's amazing and make a new genre that is also amazing. Finally, if you made it this far, thank you for reading this. And then there's just a couple of things on the end there that that he talks about with the community. So long letter, and it's very, I'm glad he brought things up like the combat update. I'll read this part again. As he says it, I was very against it. But remember, this was just after we got banned in China, which he even referenced was their largest player base. And PUBG just came out of alpha. So now you've got full competition. Pressure was on, there's the key word, the executives to make a move. You've got to remember that
you have to stay profitable.
Absolutely. It is a business. It is capitalism. It is money. It doesn't matter what Adam Clegg thinks, because at the end of the day, if the company doesn't make any money, Adam Clegg doesn't have a job. And I'm just using him as an example to point this out, that everybody's got their grand idea of how it should be done, but there are some realities to the situation, and this is one of them. You can't be building a game that is not profitable. And when you get banned out of China and a new shiny game, which is literally your exact same game, because it's the same guy, is coming out, you can't just sit there and twiddle your thumbs and go, oh, well, some jackass on Reddit said do this, so let's do it.
Well, I mean, the technology as well was so vastly different that PUBG, for many people, I think really opened their eyes to how a game could be. Because you'd have a lot of games that were single-player games that maybe would have good graphics. But the second that you would go online, I mean, people were used to MMOs or much smaller PvP style for, FPSs. And I think that here, opening up the concept, I mean, you had some mods kind of doing it, but then this game opened up. You could have 100 people playing at once, on the same map, and it's a huge world. And then it went to BR, and everybody, it's like it sped up the combat even more. I think that their eyes were open when PUBG came out. I mean, PUBG was buggy too. I mean, you can't say PUBG was not buggy, but it's evolved since then. And the second that we do a revert, all those bugs, I mean, he said it, we're rolling it back and the game just feels so buggy. Yeah. Because people know what to compare it to now.
I like this part in here too. In hindsight, the right move, and I mean, this is speaking to what a lot of what you talked about, Brian, was fix the bugs, fix the latency, and fix the engine. And I think those three-ish things, maybe you could add another thing or two in there, really could have changed, I guess, the course of events, the history of what this game is at the end going to be known about. And here's the thing, we don't really know exactly what's going to happen as of yet. It's still brand new, with the whole situation, but I'm just going to step out off the edge here a little bit and say this is probably the end of the whole H1Z1 namesake. At least for the time being. I don't see, there doesn't appear to be a push by anybody to, I mean, they've done all of this PS3 work and the player numbers are still sitting below games like Realm Royale, which are free-to-play games. I do want to thank our friend UGX Vibe for hitting us up with the 14-month Tier 1 subscription here on Twitch. Thanks. Appreciate it. I actually had a chance to have lunch with him a couple weeks ago, and we had a good time. This is well before this news came out, and we had a good time reminiscing, Brian. We did exactly what we talked about. We were reminiscing about the old days of H1Z1, and we talked about how great it was, and then I said, but hey, if it came out today, you and I wouldn't play it. He goes, absolutely. The game was awful. It was a mess. It was terrible. But we all enjoyed it, and we had a really good time talking about it. So so that's Adam's letter. We wish, obviously, the best for Adam and the rest of those. I mean, because here's the other thing that I bring this up every time, and I'll continue to, because this is what people on Twitter and Reddit don't seem to understand. These people have, like, lives. They've got mortgage payments, car insurance, healthcare, retirement. They've got things that
they're living in one of the most expensive cities in the world.
I mean, these people lost their jobs. Their livelihood has been ripped apart. And, you can argue that the decisions weren't what proper decisions weren't made, but as Adam says here, he wasn't the one making the decisions. I had no control over or was ever in charge of anything after 2015. I had no control over anything. And that is important because this is something, him and the rest of the team over there is now have got to change their life, their lifestyle. They may have to move. Who knows? And I mean, they're people. So they're not,
now one thing, I mean, I know Smedley has offered a number of people previously with previous layoffs.
Yep.
Smedley brought on a number of people. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. There's perfectly possible that they could turn around and hire some of these guys on. And I think that at least for some of them, I mean, one downside is for someone whose only experience in game design is with this engine. I feel sorry for those people. But if you look at people that were in the other categories of creating models, characters, and doing all those other works, they did those things up to modern technology. So those people could turn around and get another job. But I don't know how easy a time you would have getting a job, and if you said my only experience is with Fortnite. I don't think that's high on a resume.
Well, here's the thing. I disagree with you a little bit.
It is programming, but
I think the point
is out of date. It's really old technology.
Totally. But I think what the selling point there is, I don't want to get too far into this, but I think what may be even more valuable, Brian, than the actual engine itself is the environment of working in game development. That is something that's the resume item. I understand that Fortnite is not the premier engine in the game space in 2019, but the fact that you've worked in an environment, and here's the thing, even though they worked with Fortnite, I'm sure, and we've seen pictures of how Fortnite was laid out on the back end of it, that transition, they understand how a game, a great game editor works and how you have a game actually works. So that stuff, I understand that Fortnite itself may not be the resume item itself, but all of the things associated with Fortnite and working within departments in games and understanding the workflow of a game and patches and changes and updates and all that other stuff is where I think the value actually is, because that engine stuff can
they'll be able to get another position. It's just, I always wonder about that. How hard is that transition going to be?
But I think that's in a lot of industries. I mean, you look at jobs that are being automated, nowadays. I think you make the same argument about those people.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the amount of Java developers that are still graduating with degrees in computer science, all revolved around Java. Could you make that same argument?
Not for Fortnite.
No, but I'm
not
saying,
for Fortnite person.
No,
but I'm saying even with old. So I mean, because they're still writing it under a standard programming language. So
absolutely.
Those guys coming out of that know how to program.
And if they don't,
they're going to have to transition into understanding some of the modern technology that is attached to
it. And
it.
even if it's a different language, the programming itself is the skill. I mean, I'm sure whatever they were, I don't know what Fortnite was, maybe C#. Even if they're transitioning to
C# or C++.
So then even if they're transitioning to C++, you still understand how programming works. So I'd be interested to see what goes on with some of these guys.
Where they go next.
Yeah, and where they go. Some of them may also go back to Daybreak, because there are a number of jobs available at Daybreak now that Daybreak has.
Well, and they'd be the perfect fits if they were happy with how they were as employees, because they understand that engine. It's like they don't have to sit there and train them the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, they already understand the product. They can just walk in. So you may turn around and find that Daybreak is hiring a number of those people back on.
There are a couple of positions open at Daybreak, including a communications specialist, a technical artist, some customer service representatives, and some other game-related hirings that are going on. So some of those people may land back at Daybreak. It's kind of too early to figure out what's going to go on. Do you want to read through Daybreak's statement that came out today?
Yeah, I want to ask you one quick question,
yes,
though.
Sir.
So Jace had sent out a tweet saying pretty much he was going offline like a month ago, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, March 24th. So,
do you think that he was informed of something was going to happen back then? It's just strange that he would drop off totally from the internet and you haven't heard a word from him since.
From what I've read about Jace from people, that seems pretty unlikely. And I can't imagine he would want to publicize that. If you'd have to be a real scumbag to do something like that. And as much crap as you want to give him, I don't believe he would do something like that. I don't know him. I don't know from anybody, but that would be.
Well, I mean, he may not have been allowed to say something.
True, but God, that's,
you know what I'm saying? Like, because he may have been released as far as, because if they knew that this was not going to go, if it wasn't going, it's just weird that when he's kind of the hype man, and then he says, "I'm making my Twitter private," and that's the last thing you'll ever hear from him. That's really odd. That would come from someone like him.
You know, I hadn't thought about it, Brian. I guess now that you explain it like that, I guess it's possible. I guess it's very possible.
I mean,
I didn't even think about that.
For what he was to that company, it's just that stepping away just doesn't make any sense. Like, it just doesn't mix with what he was doing for the company.
Hey, he still hasn't tweeted anything, has he?
His Twitter is private.
Yeah.
So he doesn't, even if he tweeted something, we wouldn't see it.
Yeah, interesting.
All right, so it took what, a couple days for them to put out a statement.
This is Daybreak.
But this is from Daybreak, and it's titled Z1 BR and the Daybreak transition. It says, many of you saw last Friday, NantG officially announced their decision to transition Z1 Battle Royale back to Daybreak. Like you, we were reacting to the decision in real time and are still digesting what that means for the game going forward, which is indicating that was totally a NantG decision, was not Daybreak having any influence on it and saying, hey, you have to give this back. That means that we don't have all the answers yet, but we can offer our immediate plans for now until we are ready to share more. We can share today the servers will remain up, and we have no plans to change the name of the game or make any other big changes that will affect your current Z1 BR gameplay experience. Our number one goal throughout this entire transition is to make sure there is minimal disruption to the game service. That means you can still expect to receive Z1 BR news through existing Z1 BR community channels. It also means that we'll continue to support the game through hot fixes, live maintenance, and other service updates as our team works to get back up to speed. So Z1 BR is a game that so many of us here at Daybreak have worked on and supported in myriad ways over the years. It's supposed to be a myriad, but whatever. We want to do right by our community as we work through this transition, and we only ask that your continued patience as we prepare our plans for the game's future. So,
what a mess.
So this is, I mean, they didn't expect it. They're taking it back on, but they're just going to do patches. So, I mean, really, does this mean no more skins, no more any of that? I don't know if they're actually going to put out any kind of content anymore.
I saw
which means if there's no content, that means they're not going to do any more sales because this is a free-to-play game.
Yeah. And I want to read another tweet from Anthony that came out when all this news was breaking. He says, I cannot comment on the future of Z1, NantG, or Daybreak, so please direct your questions to official channels. I imagine they'd have an announcement prepared before they make this move. Pretty routine, which is an indication of exactly this last-minute nature of just a last-minute rash decision. I mean, him saying...
Are you talking about NantG or
yes, Anthony?
Daybreak?
No, Anthony at NantG.
But I mean, is he referring to NantG?
Yes, absolutely. He's saying that this whole... I imagine that they'd have an announcement prepared before they make this move, being NantG, but that's pretty routine, indicating that they are just kind of fly by the seat of your pants last minute decisions. And the fact that and they didn't have a statement. I mean, this happened Friday. Yeah. I don't believe I don't know when I saw a statement from them.
Yeah.
I don't remember when I saw it. But it wasn't right away. I mean, it first broke with some Twitch streamers, and then Adam, I saw Adam tweet about it, and a couple of the other guys, and then Massively OP had an article about it, and all of this before NantG had said diddly squat about it. They said nothing. There's nothing whatsoever about it. And as Anthony points out, that was pretty routine there, which would indicate of why this whole thing was kind of a failure and was going to fail from the start.
Yeah. Well, I think that this is something that we mentioned it. I know I mentioned it a number of times. If they don't have enough players, they can't support justifying the amount it's costing them to remake this and even do anything with it. We called it a while ago. I mean, it's just, they're going to shut it down. And rather than shut it down, these guys, since they don't own it truly, they just handed it back, which is the same as if they did own it, they would have been shutting it down. Instead, they just handed it back to Daybreak. So, I mean, it's still alive, but no one's actively developing it. I don't think, I don't know why they're, I understand why they don't want to say it's done, but do you think it's going to be done here pretty soon?
I do, and part of me wonders, Brian, reading Adam's statement, he made the comment about Jace that said if Jace didn't really love the game like he did, that H1Z1 or Z1 Battle Royale would have been shut down long ago. And part of me
shows that possibly Daybreak was wanting to drop it, and he convinced them to keep it going.
Well, and part of me wonders, was that necessarily the right or wrong decision? I don't have that answer, but it does make you wonder, how did you put Fix-A-Flat in your tire and you just keep driving it. You got to get that tire changed. It's going to explode when you're driving it, and you're going to end up killing yourself. That's what happens if you drive with Fix-A-Flat and don't get your tire fixed. And I almost feel like that's kind of what this was. This was Jace's attempt, and clearly he loved the game, because I mean, I'm sure he is hurting financially based on these decisions. I believe, I don't know this, I believe he put it all on the line for this game. I really do, because he had to go to these people and convince them to give him X amount of dollars to make this happen, and he put his reputation and whatnot on the line for this. But I just wonder, was it better? Was this just, to me it looks like putting a patch on a pool, Brian. It doesn't hold forever. That patch is gonna break, and you're gonna have a problem. And that's kind of what this was.
Do you want the statement from NantG?
Yeah,
because I've got NantG's statement. So in the past few months, NantG Mobile has been working feverishly on rebranding Z1 Battle Royale and reverting the game back to its glory days. We've since made countless changes to Z1 BR in an effort to recapture the moments that once made the game vastly popular and truly unique and special to many of you. Despite the team's determination and commitment to revive Z1 BR's player base with our recent Season 3 launch update, we soon realized that the road is still paved with many challenges that preclude us from long-term success, including the confusion it caused by having both NantG Mobile and Daybreak Games managing the same game under two separate brands. This was the PS4 versus the PC. Based on these events and the current state of the game, NantG Mobile refocused on its core mission of developing mobile games moving forward, and we have refocused our team towards this vision. We have also decided to hand back the Z1 BR torch to Daybreak, and so that both Z1 BR and H1Z1 will be under one publishing umbrella once again. As you have to remember, isn't it called H1Z1 on PS4 still? And then Z1 BR is this PC version.
Yeah.
Daybreak Games has agreed to keep the servers up for the players and continue live maintenance of the game. During the time period, we don't foresee any issues of this affecting your experience with Z1 BR as we work with Daybreak on ensuring the transition process runs as smoothly as possible without any disruption of the game service. On behalf of NantG Mobile and everyone on the Z1 BR team, thank you for your countless cheers during the process towards Return of the King. So this is it's pretty much their statement. I don't know. They're just like, it's not going to be successful. And I think that Daybreak is going to come to the exact same thing. And maybe this will be finally them saying, all right, we're shutting this down. And this will be the only, other than that, I mean, if you look at the other games that Daybreak has, they're really old games that are more like MMOs and things like that. And then they have, well, what about that release? Remember the title that they're supposed to release? What happened with that?
Yeah. What about Landmark? I mean, Landmark.
No. But
I know,
but PlanetSide, the new PlanetSide. Remember they were doing that PlanetSide Arena?
They are still doing it. It's coming out in the summer.
I know, and that's something that it'll be interesting to see how that does. If this is an indicator, if they're nervous going into it because they've seen that it's just that it's not taking steam. I mean, is that possibly why they're delaying it? Is that possibly what's causing? It seems like apprehension because they were supposed to release it a couple months ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. All this has kind of happened in a small window of time, but I don't necessarily know. I don't necessarily think any of it's actually related. I just, I don't know. I don't know. I think PlanetSide is a less tainted name, and it definitely has a larger following than H1Z1 has.
But it's a free-to-play game, and they're trying to sell a game. I think they're going to find
but
a lot of roadblocks when you're trying to convert a free-to-play audience to oh, now you're going to pay what, $20-$30 or more.
Yeah, it was like $30 for the base or something like that. Pretty crazy. Would it surprise me if 2 months from now we get a release that the game project has been scratched? No. I think it's necessarily going to happen? I don't think so, but
I think they'll try at least.
So do I. I doubt that they will, but it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. There is one other statement as well. I'm not going to read through it just for sake of time. But there is another one of these twit longs here from a girl known as Sixie, and she is the girlfriend of one of the pro players. I don't know who. I don't know if she says, but she goes through her experience with the H1Z1 Pro League. She calls out Jace Hall specifically by name and how he's a liar, and I mean it's a good read.
We'll have a link to it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, I mean the problem is it's a very
there's a lot of emotions in it.
Yeah, and it's a long statement, and it's just the moral of the story is, in her opinion, again, this is a he said she said. This is not fact. It's not gospel because she wrote it. In her experience, what she said is that they didn't really care if people were playing the game. They wanted to just have the Pro League running because the Pro League was the thing that could make money. She says that Jace Hall even said, I don't care. I don't give a damn if nobody's playing. As long as we've got this Pro League, we're good. They talked about teams being unable to pay people and huge capital issues and just issues like that, and how how Jace Hall had everybody move all the way out to Vegas for this whole thing, and uproot families and whatnot, all on pretenses of lies. And that's the extent of her statement. You're right, Brian. Very, very emotional statement. I don't really know who this character is, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about her, but it seemed like a genuine statement.
Yeah. So I mean, that could have been the beginning of it. People were very disillusioned. I don't think that people would have been interested in watching a pro league really. If people aren't playing it, they're not attached to it. People enjoy watching a pro league of games that they actually play or be willing to play. So I don't know that a pro league would have ever saved this thing in the first place.
No, I don't think under any circumstances a pro league I don't think a pro league does anything. But you can.
But that's the thing. That's what Jace has experience with, and so for him, that was the answer. Pro league will make money, then we'll be able to support it. We'll be able to have, and that's what he thought would be the save for this whole thing. But I think he's found that just because you have a pro league doesn't mean it makes money.
Well, I think maybe the pro league was the Hail Mary, Brian. If we can get the media hype and the media attention off of the, what's the pro league, 100 players or whatever. If we can get the hype off these 100 players and everybody's talking about it and everybody's streaming it and there's, chatter, you self-promote your game and great, you're good to go. You got a huge player base again. I assume that was the plan, but I think that was a Hail Mary. I don't think that was ever a scenario that was a guaranteed success or a guaranteed win. And it clearly wasn't.
I think learn that.
Now, there is one other thing about Just Survive I do want to note is that this happened, I saw this Monday. For the first time since October 2018, the JustSurvive.com website was up for a period of time. The old website. Now, JustSurvive.com redirects to Daybreak.com. But for a period of time, for the first time since October, the Just Survive official website was online with all the patch notes and everything like that. Now, I don't know if this was when they were moving assets over or whatnot, and maybe
it probably when they reactivated because they would have taken over the hosting of the website again.
Not the Just Survive website though. They never had the rights for that. So I'm wondering if they were maybe they were merging some of the Z1 stuff back in, and they accidentally.
But it wasn't it a sub page? The thing is, what I'm saying is when they transitioned back, they probably turned on certain sections of the website.
In 2015, when they split the games, they moved to 2 different websites. So, but it was just interesting that it was up, and now it's just redirecting to the Daybreak site. And again, you read through this Reddit thread, and oh, please let this the beginning of Just Survive, and Just Survive is this, and we want Just Survive back. I'm sorry, but you don't.
Yeah,
you really don't.
And the nostalgia is great, but there's got to be a point where it's done. So
exactly, all good things must come to an end. They do say that, and it was a good thing. In its time when it came out, it was. In a lot of regards, it was revolutionary in what they did with the the Battle Royale mode, but that was in its time, and it's that time is long sailed. So, except for as PH says, the podcast will never end because it's not a good thing. So we'll so we don't have to worry about it. We set the expectations in the bar very low. We're good to go. So there it is, Brian. That's Z1 Battle Royale, and that is H1Z1 for right now. So press F and rest in peace for H1Z1, because I think it's safe to say.
All right.
I'm so sad.
Are we ready for a game giveaway?
Sure. I'm gonna cry.
In honor. So
yes.
All right. So we'll do this.
What are you giving away?
I'm going to be giving away a copy of Zombie Night Terror.
Oh. Okay.
Exclamation point giveaway. Make sure I spell this right in the chat. This will be a 60 point. So if you've already entered, you have to type this again. Exclamation point giveaway. Did I type that right? Good. So exclamation point giveaway in chat, and then we'll give this away here in an hour right before the end of the show. So
they just did a hotfix for Z1 Battle Royale. A minor hotfix for standard maintenance has been pushed to live, no downtime, but requires small download on Steam. So this is probably the Daybreak crew maybe merging things or trying to maybe integrate something back into it for standard maintenance. Yeah. So interesting that they're, as they said, they're going to keep the servers up and do all that stuff, but no features for the time being. All right. We got a whole bunch of news here. Do you care where we start?
So let's move on to actually I want to show something here really quick. Okay. So there's a video of Rage 2.
Yes.
And we don't really need to, I mean, there's not a bunch of information here, but I wanted to show what Rage 2 looks like. I don't know how many people played Rage, the original Rage. But for me, this looks very different than Rage, the Rage I remember. And so, I don't know. I mean, what are your impressions of, like, I don't recognize this game.
I don't even know. I've never played a Rage. I've never played a Rage, so I don't really know what I'm looking at.
So it seems like it's multiplayer. The original Rage was very much a Mad Max.
Looks like we lost Brian.
Style.
Oh.
Whoa.
Whoa,
They're
Brian, your fiber internet there is cutting out on it. So,
I know, my new fast internet.
So Rage 1 was a...
So it's kind of a look of it's a darker post-apocalyptic, kind of realistic Mad Max-ish style, Fallout style game.
Okay.
And this, they're going with the very bright colors of the pink. If you look on other promo materials, and then it looks way different to me. It doesn't look anything like I remember the original Rage. So I don't know. I just watching this video. I mean, there's interesting parts, but part of what Rage was about was kind of working our way through dungeons. You know, what the equivalent of a dungeon through different zones. It wasn't a multiplayer game.
Looks like Doom. Looks like the new Doom game.
I mean, it's that id Software engine.
Well, that makes sense then.
So I don't know. This just is the first kind of look, other than promo materials that they had sent out before, of very scripted portions of the game or just cut scenes. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. They don't really give any story. I mean, they show some people talking to other players, but they don't really. It's not like they're going into the story. I think they're counting more on multiplayer interactions and things like that, and running around this open environment and just killing things. So interesting to see. I bet it's I don't know. It didn't catch my eye and make me think, man, I really want to play this game personally, because it's got a little bit, almost too much of that Doom look.
I mean, it literally. I mean, if you were to tell me this was Doom, I would say okay,
because it's got the same thing. They're doing all those crazy things with the guns, of pulling players and pushing, you know, the bad guys. I mean, it's doing a lot of those things that wasn't in the original Rage at all, and that's why it's strange to me that they've left so much of the original foundation of it.
I'm trying to branch out, right?
I guess. But I mean, but the thing is, that people enjoyed the first one. One interesting thing on Steam, it's recently mixed for Rage. Overall, it was mostly positive, and I don't know what would have changed, since they haven't put out any updates.
People are pissed about this trailer, and that's how people on Steam use the internet.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it's like people go, they don't like this one, so they go and negatively review the first one. Well, if you like the first one, go leave a comment saying that the first one was great, and then when this one comes out, say that you don't like it. I just don't understand why you'd go and review bomb the one that you actually liked.
Who the hell are you, Brian, to be talking about here? Like, how dare you talk logic and reason about how I should argue with developers on the internet? It makes perfect sense to go and boycott.
Firebomb does say that the first one did have multiplayer, but it was a 15-level co-op.
Gotcha. So not really.
So it was you. Yeah, it wasn't a big open world type of. So all right. Anyways, I just thought that was interesting. I saw that video and I thought people might be interested in seeing it, since we hadn't seen any real gameplay up to this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, somebody's interested. It's got 300,000 views on it in the past day. So I mean, somebody's watching this. But you're right. You know, the cover reminds me a lot of the new whatchamacallit game with the pink cover art. Far Cry.
Far Cry New Dawn.
The new Far Cry. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, and they're doing that same art style. I don't know why they think a post-apocalyptic future is now pink. All of a sudden, these guys are putting out post-apocalypse with bright pink, and whatever. I mean, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
How about we talk about a little bit of Rust? Because
we can do that.
We're going to be playing Rust this Friday. So they put out a big quality of life update, and so I guess it's perfect timing. We're going to experience some of these new things. They added a large oil rig. Actually, let's play the video, and then we can talk about, because there's a little bit difference between the video and this. So let's play the video, and then we can discuss some of the things.
Okay, and as always, this is the update that is done by our friend Shadowfrax. So here it is.
Greetings, survivors and friends. Shadowfrax here with your pre-chewed roundup of this week's update, and of course, patch, because it was the first Thursday of the month. So, what new playthings and features do we have? Well, as you can see, after a slight delay, the big oil rig has finally been installed and will appear on most good maps in your area. Nearly twice the size of his son, this one has more layers, more nooks and crannies, and the loot here will be guarded by thousands rather than mere hundreds of scientists. No, really, I'm sure it'll be a piece of cake for you. Talking of scientists, the regular non-thick boys in blue and green have received a new old set of threads to bring their looks more in line with their heavily armoured brethren. You'll notice the Peacekeepers have a distinctly shaped visor too, and apparently there'll be other changes in the future to differentiate them, but we'll have to wait and see what they are. Because obviously the scientists are at a disadvantage though, and need buffing against the hordes of heavily armed solo players swarming these monuments. There's a new boom tube in town. You won't find any of the thick scientists brandishing them yet, but they will occasionally drop them along with ammo, so that's nice. The MGL is a 6-round launcher with fractional reloading, and it's also joined by 3 new types of ammo: smoke, high explosive, and buckshot, with the latter being only available at the bandit camp in the food market for some reason, probably because there wasn't room in the others, and the whole ensemble being non-craftable. I've already spoken about a lot of what's in this patch in my last 2 or 3 update vids, but it's also worth mentioning that we now have the new debris system for when building blocks are destroyed, and that prevents them from being replaced for 30 seconds. There's a new knife in town. It's a workbench level 1 item, 2.5 times better than the bone equivalent, and the very best tool for collecting bacon with. It'll also at some point help you untie underwater crates faster when that gets implemented, but in the meantime, with this update, that's a faster operation anyway. If you've been paying attention, you should already know all about fractional reloading, which is now implemented on the Bolt, Pump, Spaz and MGL, and the compound had a full lighting overhaul, which not only makes it look super homely, but is also visible further away at night as a result. There were more quality of life tweaks in this update than you can shake a piece of burnt wolf meat at, with backpacks now floating, handy thanks to the oil rigs being a bit of an accident hotspot, minicopter collision being a lot more accurate, their fuel storage only being accessible by the pilot, with free look whilst he's seated or when he's not and the engine is off, and minicopter hoarding being harder due to them now decaying at half the usual rate when kept indoors instead of not at all. I know you were probably told not to run with scissors at some point in your life, but chainsaws are obviously not included, as you can sprint plus attack with them now, just in case you come across some trees with legs, I'd imagine. This also applies to the new knife. SAM sights now require 25 electricity to function, which, although a slight nerf if you look at it one way, is actually a blessing when you look at it from the other, as they can now be turned on and off remotely, and random people authorizing on them is not an issue. In other changes, as I've mentioned before, you can put water jugs in fridges now, tuna and bean cans can finally be recycled, and the salvaged axe harvests a lot more animal flesh. Muzzle brakes now work as intended, flashlight and laser effects had a pass and are now much more attractive. Tracers have been tightened up and it's a lot easier to see where they're going in first person. FOV when ADS had been all messed up for a while but should be fixed now. In the process, it was discovered that the 8x scope was actually magnifying things by 24 times, and the 4x was magnifying to 8x. In a nutshell, the 4x is now called an 8x and the 8x is now a 16x, which makes total sense, and you should probably read Helk's write-up about it in the dev blog because I can't be bothered to explain it all here. The FOV range has now been adjusted to be between 70 and 90 instead of 65 and 85. Oh, and the Thompson can be skinned now and takes flash and laser lights. Regular watchers will know that silent raiding was nerfed thanks to explosive ammo causing weapons and attachments to lose durability faster and being audible from much farther away. Hot air balloon camping was nerfed too. You can't see out of them now or use weapons whilst inside. If you go to sleep, disconnect or go into a wounded state in mid-air, the server will now take over and you will plummet to the ground, taking appropriate fall damage. So apologies to any of you who enjoyed doing that. Shelf stacking should be a thing of the past. I don't mean the job, we still need that. Face Puncher working with EAC, with the groundwork being laid for automated temporary bans in the future, and there were a ton of minor exploit fixes, which you'll excuse me if I don't go into detail on here, but that are all mentioned on the change list at the bottom of the dev blog. It wasn't all nerfs. The compound bow now acts just like a normal hunting bow when not charged and is 50 frags cheaper, plus the heavy plate armor has much higher explosive protection and a larger slot to peep out of. In performance now, which is after all the most important feature of all, a lot of optimizations were made around gunfire in this patch, with muzzle flashes being one of the biggest culprits it seems. They were causing a large impact when it came to lighting especially, and this shouldn't now be a problem. Also, player models were involved in this, and efforts have been made to fix the issue. Projectile trajectory verification, try saying that fast, was another area of concern. Water should have much less of an impact now, with buoyancy code running 35% faster on servers in particular. Lighting saw a number of improvements globally. Object pooling had a lot of work done on it, which should result in less stuttering. And of course, Super Potato Mode is available to all now, regardless of what vegetable you're playing on. So enjoy. Right, you're up to date. Go forth and grumble. Please leave me a comment and let me know how performance is for you now, plus what you thought of all of these changes. Like, subscribe, join me on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, and my Steam group, and I shall catch you all soon. But in the meantime, keep calm and stay rusty. Cheerio!
All right, there's an update from our friend Shadowfrax, and we're going to be playing that Friday night for our game of the week. So come join us.
I think one of the, well, first of all, the number of updates that they do on a regular basis are amazing compared to what we were used to H1Z1 level updates. But I think one of the big thing is that they're now implementing this temporary bans, because before they would only ban if somebody was repeatedly doing things, and then they would ban them permanently. So now they can do temporary bans to kind of warn people, and then if they do that enough, then they get a permanent ban.
Yeah.
So very good. This will be interesting. So this will mostly be nice for us. There's a lot of optimizations that should run good. So I don't think we'll have any excuse for a bad experience other than we get trolled or killed repeatedly and rage.
And even if it does, there's not gonna be any raging. But even if it does, even if it is bad, Super Potato Mode can will solve all of our problems.
No one has an excuse. They can't.
No excuse for running this. I do want to mention quickly, I don't really want to talk about this update. I don't want to talk about the Atlas test update, but I do want to mention that it's out, because I think it's better for us to maybe, unless you disagree, I think it makes more sense to read the final notes.
Let's fully cover it when the actual release is done. But otherwise we won't be able to talk about it.
Now, this was supposed to be released in late March, and it was supposed to be released in late March. The test realm, or the test server version of this, was just released on April 5th. And they've been doing some updates to that. We've already talked about what the plan is for this, but we'll cover it when they hit the final version. So hopefully we'll have that here over the next couple of weeks. But do note that if you want to get in on this, there is a forum post on their website on how to join the what they're calling they call it the PTR, and it's the same way as
public test release.
Public test realm. Public test realm, and it's the same thing as everything else. Properties on the game, betas, and then select your branch, and it's called public test realm. So you can go ahead and do that if you want to jump in there and try it before everybody else does. You can go ahead and do that. And PH is astonished that Wildcard has not delivered on time. I mean, I know we've seen some shocking things over the past week, and this one is as shocking as the rest. So, you know what? Here's the thing, though. They have bought themselves a pass, because when they do actually do the update, most of the time it exceeds expectations. So we'll see if they're able to do that again here. People are willing to give you a pass if you're reliably doing good things. But yeah. So we'll see. It's on the public test. You can go ahead and try it out, and hopefully here, when that releases, we'll do that again for Game of the Week and jump in there and screw around for a couple days.
All right. So do we want to talk a little bit about Apex?
Yeah, sure.
They put out their 1.1 patch.
Let's do it.
This is a quality of life patch. So they add the ability to party up with the last squad member you played with.
Pretty neat.
And after the match, you will see a button in the lobby that displays the last 2 people you played with, and you can invite them to your squad. So maybe I would assume it's possibly if you played in a random group and you want to regroup with those people, it'll give you that option to group up with them again. And you'll just see, as you can see, it says last squad, and they're right there on the left, which is a nice feature. When you head back, which maybe professional streamers won't like so much because they'll get spammed every time they finish playing with somebody in a random. When you, I would assume they'll probably add a setting to block that ability. When you head back to the lobby after a match, you will see the 2 new buttons. They show you the player in your last squad. You invite them. You can choose to allow invites. Here we go. Or opt out in the friends menu. So you can actually disable that so that people cannot invite you off of that.
Fake news, Brian.
That's what I said they would do.
Well,
and they
boy,
did.
you're quite the foreshadower, Brian.
Well, additional behind the scenes improvements for squashing cheaters. Now this is, as always, we're working on anti-cheat. We've heard that a lot of times. Added mute button during the intro and legend selection. When using the report player button for PC, you now have the option of selecting cheat or other. That's one thing I noticed is if you selected a thing for reporting a player, it didn't say that you couldn't select an option, like the right option of aimbot or any of that, which is kind of odd to me. Made small improvements to the UI for customizing legends. Added options for turning off lighting on compatible hardware, like the Razer Chroma and such for mouse and keyboards. Added information messages to appear on PC for crashes due to running out of memory, CPU errors. Added better collision for the turrets on supply ships. Stability fixes on all platforms. Bug fixes. Fix some issues with the jump pad phase walk interactions. And one thing I've noticed, and I've been seeing this with a couple of the major games, is they've been doing a lot. Sometimes they do a lot of releases for console, but they don't actually do them for PC. And this one was lagging behind. I think it was lagging behind a little bit on PC, which I thought was kind of odd because they had a number of their major patches come out on PS4 and Xbox One first, and then they're finally getting them onto the PC. So I don't know how much of a difference. Usually you see PC come out first and then console second, but this one they're doing.
Yeah, they don't have to deal with that.
Because their player base is much bigger.
Well, it's player base. Also, they don't have to deal with that bullshit of updating games like they do on Microsoft and Sony. You've got to go through a whole damn certification process and everything. It's a real pain.
Yeah, they probably run it out quite a bit early, and then once it gets approved, and then as soon as when they see it approved, they start releasing this one. So.
Yeah, and that's all part of that quality control on a closed platform. Is Xbox doesn't want players to dealing with. There's going to be bugs, but they're trying to deal with. They're wanting to make it so there's as little problems as possible for people on that platform. So the disadvantage is then you fall behind on patches because it's not easy to just throw things on there.
Yep. So that's pretty much it for Apex. It's the only really real news I've seen. There was a number of updates here for Fortnite. Oh. They put out their 8.3 update, and this one, I mean, it's that they have this battle bus. So they're calling it the reboot van, which actually is very similar to the thing to resurrect that's in Apex. We've talked about some of the other features that they've been doing that they've been copying, and they won't say this, but they've been copying some of the more popular features, ping and all these different things from some of these other.
Freaking Rum Royale did the same thing with their damn resurrection. You can, I forgot to even mention that. I don't remember what it's called. Resurrection recipe.
And you could do it at the Forge.
Yeah, resurrection recipe, I think is what it was called. Yeah, and you'd resurrect somebody into a chicken.
Okay, but didn't that make it a much more pleasant experience?
It did. Yes, but I'm not sliding it, but I'm saying Apex has again now. Fortnite is doing it. Realm is doing it. Is H1RIP1 tried doing it? If you remember, they tried doing a pickup system rather, but PUBG will not. I can't imagine they will, but this is we've seen this happen. Everybody copied what PUBG did, then everybody copied what Fortnite did. Now everybody's copying what Apex is doing.
Well, this is just becoming the standard. So, I mean, this is the thing: is this is becoming the standard for BR type game.
Yep.
The ping system, Apex did a really good job on it. You know what? You're going to start seeing all these groups implement those features, and the whole BR experience is based on copying what another person has done. We talked about that early in the show. I mean, it came from a mod. It was copied, into another game, which was then copied to another game. Fortnite was copied from that. And so I think that this genre is very open to the idea of we just take whatever features people seem to like the most and we put it in there. And I think they're pretty unapologetic about the whole thing. So they have the reboot van in there. So it's a way that you can revive your teammate. They also have a bounty event that they did called Buccaneers Bounty Event. And other than that, I mean, this is a limited time mode. Fly explosives. Only explosive weapons can be found in the mode. Floor loot spawners will occasionally spawn jetpacks. And you have a cap on your ammo, and they reduce the storm wait times. So they also did a team rumble, which you have a match with people, 100 to 150 people, and they've just tweaked the settings on it. You can do that, and then they added a number of items. So they added the infantry rifle, or actually they adjusted the infantry rifle. That was gone from 40 damage down to 38. So they're kind of, seems like, for some of them, they're trying to balance those weapons out, lowering damage on some, changing the fall off ranges, trying to get it to where they're all kind of compatible and one's not way more powerful than the other. So I think that's about it. Mainly it's just tweaks to player settings, but I don't think most of our audience really cares about changing slight settings in the game. So I think that's it. And Firebomb wants to announce he just uninstalled the game. So he has finally released himself.
What about this video thing?
From Firebomb. Yeah, go ahead and play it. I think it's going to show the reboot van.
Okay, here we go. This is actually the multi-select feature that they're showing.
Oh, it's the multi-select. Okay.
So this is in the. This isn't in Battle Royale. This is in Fortnite.
Huh. Okay. Sorry, I grabbed the wrong video then.
All good.
I'm sorry.
That
was me.
That's cool though. So you can select multiple items. You put multiple blueprints down, and then you can copy that as like a preset. Yeah,
I meant to get the battle van. I might swap that out here a little bit later in the show notes. So I actually have the correct one. But yeah, and then you'd put an article about the UK, and I actually saw about this.
Yes.
Talking about banning Fortnite.
Prince Harry said,
yes,
quote, that was quote created to addict.
Which, is that not true? I mean, is that not what most things are?
Well,
I mean, are they going to ban cigarettes? Cigarettes are really popular in the UK. Are they not created to addict?
They're real popular in Europe, because I just was at this video trade show, and there was a lot of European people there, and Jesus, everybody is every time I walked anywhere, everybody's smoking.
When I went there, I mean, you have all these like 13 to 15-year-olds, and all of them are smoking there. They're walking down the streets. They're all just out in the open smoking. It's like, all right.
No, the thing that kind of, I think that, and I'm not going to go political with this, Brian. You need to strike me down if I do, but I think this word addict or addicting is being overused and overstated in this day and age that we're in. To say that Fortnite was made to addict people to playing it. No, Fortnite was created to make as much money as possible for Epic Games.
By getting people to play as much as possible.
Absolutely. So now, if I don't necessarily that doesn't strike me as an addiction. There's no pistol popping out of the CD tray of your computer when you stop playing. Epic is not sending black vans and helicopters to your house when you stop playing.
Yeah,
they're not forcing you to play. They're trying to make the best game possible, and there's just using the word addiction in conjunction with Fortnite is just odd to me. Everything you can make the argument that this is an addiction, Brian. We've done this for 221 weeks straight.
And we dread every week of it.
It's not that we dread every week. I didn't want to do the show. I didn't want to do the show today. I'm exhausted. I've been up. I haven't slept more than probably 10 hours in the past 3 days. I am exhausted right now. I don't want to do that. I honest to God, Brian, did not want to do the show here this evening because I'm so tired. So is this considered an addiction? I wouldn't go that far.
Well, I think
tired.
This,
I mean,
the slippery slope of this is that they're going to start saying anything that people want to do and don't want to stop doing is an addiction.
Okay.
rather than just being something they're really enjoying. There are people who take anything. People can be addicted to anything. There's people addicted to water. There's people addicted to, you name it. There's someone addicted to something.
I was just in Vegas.
It's something really odd.
I was just in Vegas, Brian. I like to think of myself as I enjoy gambling. Am I a gambling addict? No. But when I was there, boy, I tell you what, I love playing with some slot machines. I had a great time. I had a fantastic time. And I'm back here, and I didn't spend all the money I have. But that's like saying, well, slot machines are made for gambling addicts. There's hundreds of thousands of people in Las Vegas right now playing those, and they're not all addicted to gambling. They enjoy it. It's something fun to do, and that's what I did. Yeah. But I think this word is being there are things that you get physically addicted to, like drugs and alcohol. You can get physically addicted to those. Your body will change, or if you don't feed it, you're addicted to cigarettes. I mean,
your body will crave it. Your body will hurt you if you don't have it. Now, versus this is not. I mean, I don't think there's any kids who are actually getting sick physically because they couldn't play Fortnite tonight.
No, and obviously PH is bringing up the gambling addiction. Now, but here's the thing. There is a cycle. You can be psychologically addicted to gambling, but that is I think that's a little bit different from what is being talked about here with Fortnite. It's just I just think it's a little bit different.
But there are people that were addicted to Pac-Man. There would be people who would go and spend all of their quarters playing Pac-Man back in the day.
But is that an addiction, or is that something
doesn't matter what game it is? They can't ban it because people want to play it. People will get addicted to anything.
But that's the thing, is just because somebody, one person is addicted to something. So because people are addicted to gambling, does that mean I can't, as a responsible adult, go to Las Vegas, and if I want to blow $10,000 on blackjack, I can't?
Well, okay, so PH brings up WoW, because that's someone that a lot of people, I played a lot of WoW back in the day, but you know what, I walked away from it.
But okay, would you say that Blizzard made WoW to ruin people's, because when I think of addiction, I think of
not
life
to ruin people's lives,
but that's what an addiction
they wanted
is.
To get people to play. They wanted to get people to play every day.
But I think that's what an addiction is, Brian. I think if you're going to say something is an addiction, it is meant to hook somebody, and I think addiction is never used in a positive term. I'm addicted to work. No, you're not. You're full of shit. You're not addicted to work. You're addicted to bad things. You're addicted to heroin, or you're a gambling addict. And as PH was saying, you gamble all your money away and you're homeless or whatever. Those things are things that are getting you to they're all negative terms. Addiction, used in a negative sense. And I have a hard time swallowing this idea that Epic Games built Fortnite to addict people to ruining their lives and playing the game. I don't, and maybe that's just my interpretation of the word.
Okay, so here I'm going to give you an example of what I think will put it in context. So let's take, for example, food, because everybody eats food, right? There are people that are addicted to food, and you know what? They're harming themselves. There's people that eat so much that they harm themselves and they risk dying because of food, right? But does that mean that we regulate everyone else's intake of food? Do we regulate intake of food for anyone? The companies make food to be delicious. They make treats and sweets and everything else. You'll see some lawmakers that they're trying to put regulations on soda and everything else. Yeah. So they come in and they say, all right, we're going to regulate so that you can't have as much. That's not going to fix the addiction. They will turn around and then instead of soda, they'll go get addicted to something else that's just as bad for them. Now, it's not your job to sit there and regulate what people are allowed to like and not like.
And I don't want to sit here that say that you can't be addicted to things, because PH is pointing out that you can't be addicted to things that aren't physical, like drugs. Because there's a situation of a radio show host that is going to be serving the next 4 years in prison due to his gambling addiction and what he was doing to people with his gambling addiction. And so I'm not saying you can't be addicted to things that aren't physical, that physically change you, but to say that something was created to addict people is garbage. That is a bullshit statement. You can't say.
What about cigarettes?
No, I'm saying about Fortnite. That is a.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm saying though, like they're comparing it to that. Cigarettes are literally created to addict.
Oh, you could make that argument, but I just don't think in this case that is a valid term to say.
I'm saying they're not the physical product. Everything that Fortnite isn't based around getting someone hooked on it. It is based on how can we get people to play, be willing to spend money and play this, but it's not a physical, it's not something that's purely made for addiction. Now, one thing I will tell you, this conversation goes to something else. Look at social media. If you actually look at social media and what they do and the studies and they bring on psychologists and everyone else onto companies like Facebook, because they actually do seek the way to get you to spend the most amount of time and get you hooked on it. So it is an intention, but is it the job of the government to regulate that and prevent it?
Of course the intention is to get, and Saul's bringing up microtransactions. Of course that's the intention. The intention with Epic is to make as much money as possible. What's the intention of this program, Brian? Have as many people listen to it as possible. And that's almost across the board the intention of everything. But to say that, as he said, it's created to addict, an addiction to keep you in front of your computer for as long as possible. It's so irresponsible. Just like on your phone. I think that's an incorrect statement.
The point of Facebook and Instagram and everything else is to keep you in front of your screen as long as possible. There's no difference.
But and that's the thing I think that statement is just irresponsible to say. So, he says that it's irresponsible. I think that statement is irresponsible. It is. It's totally out of touch. We called it a survival game. He has no freaking clue what the hell he's talking about. Fortnite, the Battle Royale version, is not a survival game at all. So you're right. He's out of touch, and it's just we see these examples all the time when it's either the media or politicians all across the world try talking about video games or social media or technology. Totally out of touch. The game shouldn't be allowed. What is the benefit of having it in your household?
Because it's a game that your kid enjoys.
Yeah, but fun, Brian. You can't have fun on something if somebody else is addicted to it. So I should not be allowed to enjoy going to Las Vegas for a work convention and spending a couple $100 on slot machines if I want.
Or my point of bringing up, food. Just because someone has a struggle of controlling the amount they intake doesn't mean that I should ever be regulated on what I can eat, right? I don't need to be punished because I don't have a struggle with eating. You don't need to regulate anything from me. I should be able to make my own decisions, just like they should be able to make their own decisions to harm themselves. Yeah. That's my point. It's not the government's job to come in and regulate that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought that was interesting. Who knows? Maybe they'll ban it in the UK. I really doubt it.
There's not a chance in hell that happens.
So
there's no
they may
way.
Tax
there's
it.
no
They will probably tax it. I promise you they probably will tax it.
Well, we'll have to see. Epic will find some way to skirt around that. I can almost guarantee it. So yeah, you're right. I thought that was an interesting article though. And speaking of interesting articles, I do want to read this, and I know we've got some news to get into, but I think it's important because we've talked about it in the past. Somebody made a threat to Square Enix. A Japanese man sent an email to them, said, "Hey staff, tomorrow I'm going to kill you. Get ready for your punishment." He was arrested, and he confessed that he spent almost $2,000 over 200,000 yen on a game and didn't get the in-game item he wanted. So he sent out the email and said, "I'm going to come and kill you," to the Square Enix offices, I guess, in Japan. And we've talked about some of this stuff in the past with where these online threats or this online stuff turns into physical threats.
No.
This guy was 25 years old, so he's not like a 13-year-old kid or whatever. I mean, this is a person that is capable of committing heinous acts based on their age, and he was arrested. And I thought this was interesting because you don't see this stuff. You see these these vague threats, and developers talk about it. We've seen it talked about 100 times, especially the No Man's Sky people. I remember them specifically talking about all the physical threats that they got, but nothing ever comes of it.
So one interesting thing is if you read about who's the CEO of Facebook, Zuckerberg, in his meeting room at his office, he actually has an escape chute, like you put laundry in.
Yeah,
he has one of those because he gets so many threats on his life that he has an escape chute that goes to an escape vehicle in the bottom of the building, so that he can, if someone starts to charge the building and try to get into it, he drops down the chute and he gets escorted out. I mean, it's probably much more common, but this company's probably just not used to it. There's people that get threatened every day by crazy people on the internet.
Yeah, BH is mentioning the Dr. Disrespect thing when somebody was shooting, somebody shot like either at his house or near his house when his wife and kids.
I think they shot like an upstairs window with a BB gun or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember what happened, but nevertheless, the point of bringing this up was that you never normally see the outcome of this. You hear threats were made, but nothing ever really comes up. But this guy got arrested, and I wonder what will happen.
Good. I mean, that's the thing, is things like that need to have consequences. That's part of the issue, is so many things on the internet don't have consequences. That's why people are willing to say horrible things on the internet, do things on the internet. I think there is a line that once that's crossed, I think you should have freedom of speech up to a point. But when you threaten someone else, when you threaten physical violence, that's crossing the line. And I think that this is a good example, because a lot of times those don't get followed up with. As you said, you don't ever hear of any kind of a punishment. People just say things on the internet and that's it.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go.
Well, let's talk about Fallout 76 a little bit.
Oh, great.
So
I'm sure they got some threats over this game.
your favorite, yeah, I'm sure he's doing wonderfully. So they put out their Wild Appalachia patch, and this was on April 9th. So this was yesterday. One thing they did add was the Lying Low quest line, the design, and they did a number of design and balance adjustments, the bat system, turrets, things like that. They also allow you to rename items, so add a personal touch to your apparel, armor, power armor, weapons by giving them custom names. So you can, I don't know why you would do that. News screen, splash screen now automatically appear upon logging into Fallout 76 to notify you of game news. And then on the 16th, so in 6 days here, they're going to be having the Burrows, which explore the Burrows, a new subterranean dungeon with a bunch of challenges in it. So this will be, I mean, it's new content added to the game. And one thing that's been added, or they're introducing, are these repair kits. Now, these repair kits are controversial because they're something you purchase. And they promised in Fallout 76 that it would not be a pay-to-win game.
You purchase it with cash?
Yeah, you can purchase currency, which then allows you to buy. So it's basic repair kit is a cash shop item.
I purchased this game right after it came out for $30, and I really did think at some point I would get into it. I believe I played 2 hours.
Yep. It's not what people expected. I know it wasn't, but I didn't even bother buying it. Because I think we saw enough early on that we were like, okay, this is not what we were promised. This is not Fallout.
I was just hopeful, right? I was like, oh, this is the Fallout team, right? They'll make it work. But as we've seen, and here's the problem. It's the same.
Maybe they will. I mean,
it could
changing it.
This update could be the one that makes it work, but it doesn't matter because everybody on the internet hates it.
Yep.
No Man's Sky is another great example.
Just like you hate No Man's Sky, even though it's a pretty good game now.
Yeah, they've made it a great game, but
you refuse to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just it's just the negativity surrounded about it. And then it's not just me. I mean, there's everybody that bought that game right off the bat and got hoodwinked by them is pissed.
Yeah.
And it's not. I mean, have they added stuff to the game? Yes, but I mean, the game itself still sucks. I stand by that.
Well,
boycott No Man's Sky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, No Man's Sky, the original release, because I purchased it. I remember you and I, it's alternated which games we bought, and I think I got No Man's Sky.
No, I got No Man's Sky. You got a much better.
Oh wait,
game. You got like
wait,
Ark
what did I get?
or something good? Some good
like an Ark expansion or something
yeah,
like that.
You're like, oh, I'll buy the Ark DLC. I was like, oh, I'll get No Man's Sky. I'll show Brian on this one, and I'm left with a pile of garbage.
You're gonna laugh
in my
at me.
Steam
Is
library.
what you thought?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, enjoy your stupid dinosaur mod, you jerk.
Yeah. So yeah, so who knows? This could be, but I don't think this is ever going to be the Fallout game that people wanted. I mean, they would have to so fundamentally change it. I don't think Fallout plays well in multiplayer.
No, that's the problem, and it's not. That's what it was never intended to be. This game, and it's such a shame too, because you really do think you have to look at, and the problem is it was coming out at the same time, but you've got to look at the success with Red Dead Redemption 2, and the reason it was successful was not because of the idea of its multiplayer mod. It was successful because of its expansive, almost surreal single player experience. And the problem is small development houses, Brian, like almost all of the games you talk about, cannot afford to make a Red Dead Redemption style game. They literally will never finish it. But
the tools. So the tools to make big games are getting more prevalent, easier to use. But the thing is, the games are just getting more complicated as we go. So even if they get to the point where they're making a Red Dead Redemption level game, Red Dead at that point is then going to be pretty much real life simulator. I mean, it's going to be so far beyond. I mean, if you look at even looking at GTA, how old is GTA 5?
2013.
4 or 5 years. So 6 years now?
Maybe it's 2012.
I mean, that was so cutting edge at the time, and it's still, I mean, you could say that looks to age, but I still think it's pretty current.
Yeah,
as far as it still looks good today.
Agreed.
They're just so far ahead that games are catching up. But you know what? Other companies are able to release games that are like GTA 5 now, no problem. So they're so far ahead. I think Fallout 76 is getting dated, and they're not keeping ahead. I mean, there was a time period when Fallout was ahead of its time. But the thing is they've never changed. I mean, this is them trying to change, and look what happened.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's I think it's because of how drastic they tried changing it. I mean, they went from no, I don't believe there was any multiplayer whatsoever in Fallout.
No,
4.
I mean, someone made a mod or something to kind of do some weird multiplayer, but I think that was it.
You went from no multiplayer whatsoever to essentially an always online game,
which breaks half the mechanics.
Half. It breaks the whole freaking game.
Yeah.
Defeats the whole. There's no NPCs. There's no story, because the NPCs in this game there's no story.
They would have had to have instanced the whole game so much to make a story carry through like that. I mean, but I think I think that they would have done better doing a co-op Fallout, to get people eased into that concept.
Or just give them the option.
Yeah. They should have had an open world mode, and then here's Fallout. I think that this for them was a test, but they should have released it maybe with a real Fallout, because I don't think this is a real Fallout. The problem is they put the name Fallout on it when it's not. It's more of a mode of Fallout.
Yeah, and
so
it looks very.
I think they just wasted their time.
I would.
So I think that's it pretty much for Fallout. How much time do you think we have?
15.
What do you do on your schedule?
15, 20 minutes. I've got nothing planned.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about SCUM for a minute. They did release one of their new comics.
Oh, okay.
So that in the series of comics, I think this is their 5th one, maybe.
Yeah, sounds about right.
I think this is their 5th one that they've done. It's a simple page, but it's kind of starting to unfold the story of how. Because first of all, you kind of heard people talk about, oh, it's based on a game show. You're thrown into this world. This comic set is actually telling that story of how you get onto the island. So, and then they've gone through and fully implemented driving into the game. Remember, we had criticized them about the vehicle that they originally showed. They gunked it up a bit, and now they've got driving in there. It looks fully gunked. Yeah, looks barely recognizable as a car. They added in a radio, which, hey, we could post and ask if they want to have.
But they did the same thing with the radio. This is a model that they clearly just bought off of what is this? The Unreal Store. I mean,
no, but maybe off of like Squid.
Okay, it's just
one of the other ones, CG Trader.
I don't know. Is it too detailed? I mean, obviously this is the out of game.
But the thing is, once you bring it into the game, it will lose all that detail. Just like that car. You remember that original rendering of that car? It's a lot more detailed than that thing you just showed.
And you're right. I don't know. When I see stuff like this hyper realistic, I've got one of these radios. Very simple. I own 10,000 radios. I've got a whole bunch of all these little like hand power cranked radios. I've got one that looks like this. I just can't imagine that in any of these games.
So I mean, here's the thing: is they got to render it like this, or they do render it like this, because when you bring it in the game, it's going to lose detail. The process they're doing is they'll bake it down, so a lot of that detail that it looks like it's handcrafted in there, I mean, it will lose some of the depth and some of the look when they bring it in game, and it will not look as detailed as that. And then you'll be like, oh, okay, it looks just like everything else in the game at that point.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that they have the actual AM and FM bands on there, as well as the shortwave bands, actual going up to 108 megahertz. So,
yeah. So, I mean, they based it off of some real one. Then they've added some new points of interest throughout the map.
Yeah, they got a whole bunch here.
Yeah, it blasts from the past, old remnants from a war long forgotten. So it's kind of based on like, for instance, that big gun, they have those in Alaska. And so I've seen some like that, to where they're just things left over from World War II or from the Cold War, things like that. They have a number of taunts, so pretty much animations they put in there: ball palm, face palm, finger gun. I mean, just, these things are easy to add in. And so they added I don't know how many pages of that, and you can go in and bind your taunts to certain things. So they reworked the loot system, and then they also added in Logitech LED illumination. So if you have a Logitech keyboard like I do, I can make it so the keys will light up and flash, for instance, when you're injured. So chests and
nothing like a strobing keyboard when you're bleeding out in SCUM.
Yeah, just to rub it in. Chests and rocks. They had chests that were in rocks. They fixed all those, and then a number of bug fixes. So that, and they did another smaller update. This was the hot fix, and it was mainly doing things for, well, they archery. They had some bugs from the archery update that happened, and so they fixed those. They also talked a little bit about the boat mechanic that they're putting in and showing some of the animations. They're putting in a quad bike. They're putting a new building that's a big construction, like an under construction type of building. That's the frame. They are working on the female still. I don't know if you remember. They are going to be adding a female in there. And they have a model that's, I guess, semi-blocked, mostly nude. And then they put a preview for the next comic. So
coolio.
That is pretty much it for SCUM.
Yeah, let's talk about Unturned. There's a couple of updates here, as well as a video. And the first update here is let's see, 3.29.5.0. And what they did in this one is they added the ability to craft mythical skins, accepted several limited time skins to the stockpile. Then they added a whole bunch of other event hooks and whatnot. They've done some improvements, improved voice data. Modding. Yeah, so they've done some voice data stuff in here. Stockpile bundles, they've changed there. They've fixed things. The one thing I find interesting here is the voice relay. I think you're starting to see. I think you could attribute some of this to Apex, Brian. Their way that they've done their in-game communication, where it's the VoIP is cool and all, but the ping system can almost you could almost not even have the VoIP and still play. But I still
took out the necessity for voice on that game. Apex is perfect for even people speaking different languages. It doesn't matter so much.
And I think one of the cool things, obviously with Discord and TeamSpeak and all that stuff, in-game VoIP is not quite so important, but there are still people that use it. And I guess Unturned's voice chat system was pretty wonky, so they've changed some things working with Steam's peer-to-peer network, and now the files are actually being validated through a server, so you can't be. I guess that people were doing voice packet spamming.
Oh, to lag people out?
I guess so. I don't know what in the hell they were doing, but they were doing some voice packet spamming, which
sounds like the internet.
Yeah, it sounds like something that the internet would do. Now, here's an update from a little bit later on last week. This is 3.30.0.0, and this is a new map. It's called Belgium, and it's a short little video here, and it's going to show off some of the features of this new map. The one thing I want to point out with that, as similar to some of their other maps, this was not actually made by Nelson. This is created by a list of people: Ben, Ethan, Nathan, Nicholas, Noland, Husky, and a couple of other guys. And Nelson,
I think he kind of works with them.
He does. He does work with them.
So they do get some form of compensation for this.
But when we talked to Nelson, God, at this point, what 2 years ago, something like that, when we first talked to him, he mentioned that because things like this take so long that he had to give up some of that control. And I believe this is now the second or the third, what they call, I guess you call a curated map. I mean, it's curated by people. I think this is the second or the third curated map in the game, which I find to be.
And they've been picking various locations, looking at the art styles of those locations, and then kind of making a map based on that. So
yeah, so the map is in there now. It's only until May 5th. I don't know why, but it is a curated map until May 5th, and then I don't know what they're going to do with it.
Maybe it just won't be in like a certain area of it. You could probably download it and possibly play it.
So then they fix some voice issues and some other things that were going on with that. But a new map. So if you want to go ahead and install Unturned. Again, the game is free. All the maps are free and everything like that. There are some skins here that you can purchase that support some of the developers and people that make them. But other than that, the game is totally free, and it is arguably...
And he actually shows the revenue split there.
Yeah.
So showing what goes to the other developers and everything else. So, and
I stand by this saying it is one of the it may be the hardest survival game that it's close to one of the hardest survival games I've ever played. Unturned is incredibly complicated game. Doesn't look like it because, you know, Roblox with guns, but very, very tough mechanics.
Yep. All right. So let's just cover one more thing here.
Okay.
And then we can save the rest. So I just want to talk about Xera really quick. He did put out a patch that includes ATVs now.
Oh,
He added some new points of interest to the map, so like an improved farmhouse area, replaced some, the fencing and some just different areas he's been revamping. He now has with the event system, the cooldown was changed from to 25 minutes from 20. Reduce some of the sounds from like the helicopter and things like that. But if you want to go out in there, and I think he has a free weekend coming up here again, you can go and jump in there, test the ATV. But remember, it is very much in testing mode. It's experimental, so you may notice some weird behaviors. But go in there if you do have issues. Maybe you want to file a bug report and let them know what experience you had. So that is Xera. And one game that had an update was RE. They always have updates throughout the week, so 3 updates on that. Survive the Nights had an update. There is a video, but it's a long devlog type of video.
Do you want to show any
play
of
that
it
today? No, because they haven't done one for a while, so maybe we'll show it next week when we have more time.
Cool.
Outlaws of the Old West put out an update, and Conan Exiles put out an update this week. So,
all right, excellent.
We'll have all those linked in our show notes if you want to go check any of them out.
Yes, please do so. Now, as we were saying earlier, coming up this Friday night, we're going to dive deep into the to the abyss of Rust. What we're going to do is Brian and I will decide on a server that we're going to play on. We'll get the name of it. We'll get all the information on it, and we'll post something in Discord, probably early Thursday evening, just telling everybody where they can go and and join us.
Very good.
So yeah, get that installed, and then hopefully we'll be able to play for a couple of days. My goal is that we can turn the Rust.
We can actually build a base this time.
Well, I don't even necessarily know build a base, but at least play it for more than 3 or 4 hours, and actually do something with it. So that's the intention. That's the goal. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that.
Very good.
All right, what else, Brian? We covered almost all the news, which is good.
Yeah, I've got to go here pretty soon. So,
okay, perfect. Then
perfect. So I think that's good for news.
Excellent. Well, then that is the case, it is time for everybody's favorite segment, and that is current players. Well, I'm not going to do H1Z1 anymore because whatever. Starting with Ark, currently playing 23,988, your 24-hour peak 37,321 with a 7-day peak of 50,494. How about Unturned? Look at this, 8,168 people currently playing, the 24-hour peak 14,172, and a 7-day peak of 18,227. Some pretty legit numbers over there. And then finally, PUBG, currently playing 126,380 with a 24-hour peak of 831,820 and a 7-day peak of 942,933. Atlas's numbers are all jacked up because they just got the test server patch. Nobody wants to play on the current server because everything's going to be wiped, and their numbers are kind of screwy. So,
one thing I will say is usually we do this on Tuesdays, which is right around the time of reset. So this is probably some of the most accurate numbers that we've seen probably for PUBG. So this is probably 126,000, I think.
Yeah, 126,380.
So I think that shows a good spread, because usually we say, oh, it seems like it's a little low right now because they just did a Steam reset.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and do tip of the week, where either I'll give a general gaming tip or one for a specific game. And since we played a decent amount of Realm Royale this past week, that'll be my tip of the week. All right, so in Realm Royale, when you're choosing your character, you want to keep in mind those initial perks. So that's something that before you would see, for instance, the assassin, they can teleport forward. The mage can fly through the air. The hunter can roll in a different direction. And then the warrior had his heroic leap. But that can all be changed immediately after you get to the ground. Once you start looting objects, you'll be able to pick up whatever items you are able to find, and you can then use those on your character. So even if you're a warrior, you'll have the ability to do the same ones that the mage or any others can do. But one thing you do need to keep in mind is that when you're going to the forge, there are limitations of what you can craft there. So if you are a hunter, you will craft a bow as your ultimate weapon. A mage crafts a stave. So based on perhaps you don't like, I know we were playing and someone said, I don't like the stave. Okay, don't make a mage, because if you're going to go to the forge and craft, we'll be making those. So don't really look so much at those beginning abilities that you have, but look at the items that you're able to craft at the forge, because those are the things that maybe late game you haven't found a really good item. You go to the forge, which is pretty easy to build up the points. You just disenchant everything, get as many of those as you can, and then you can make those items. But if you don't like those perks, try some of the other players until you find one that has the right type of perk at the forge and the right type of weapon. So that is tip of the week.
I'm a big fan of the warrior class.
Yeah. See, I personally do like the mage. The mage,
of course,
for me is just because I found that I liked the power of the weapon, but I end up playing, I think, the hunter the most.
Okay.
So
excellent. Alrighty. Again, game of the week. Friday night coming up, 8 p.m. Eastern in our Discord. We are going to be playing Rust. Alrighty, Brian. What's our
all right? So
got our game?
Let me go ahead and roll this. And congratulations, Firebomb. Firebomb is our big winner. So I will send you a key, and hopefully you enjoy the game. If you ever receive a game as part of the raffle and you enjoy it, you should let us know so that we can know what works and what people don't like. Even if you don't like it, I guess you could let us know. Say the game was no fun.
Yeah, tell Brian that the free game he gave you sucked. That's
yeah, don't do hate mail. Just give me an honest review.
Alrighty. Just note we'll be back again next week at our regular time, Tuesday at 7 Eastern. So tune in for that. Alrighty, Brian, where can people find you?
Well, if you want to find me at Boise Computer on Twitter, or check out my blog, bytedtech.com, and of course our website, infectionpodcast.com. We have up there our survey. So if you want to participate in the survey, make sure you click the link. We also have a link to our Discord, which has places that you can submit news throughout the week. It's a great place to hang out and chat, just to pretty much whatever you want to talk about through the whole week. We have on there our Steam group if you want to get notifications before the live show starts. And in our audio, all the different audio forms that we have for whatever device you might want. We have also show notes. So anything that we maybe discussed that you want to go see the original source for, go check it out. We have all of those on the website. So that is it.
Alrighty, Brian. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being flexible with me this week, and we will talk to you Friday night. I'm looking forward to playing Friday Night Rust with the group. So thank you as always.
See you on Friday.
Yes, sir. Alrighty, folks. Thank you for putting up with me. As you can tell, I'm fading into the abyss, very heavily jet lagged here, but we made it through. If you missed any portion of the show or whatnot, you can visit our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. Full show notes, links to all the videos, images, and everything else that we talked about. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. Thank you so much for joining us live on a Wednesday. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next time.